Thank you, Ceann Comhairle. We unambiguously welcome the bill and acknowledge the work that Minister Flanagan and Minister Stanton have done in bringing this bill before the House. I don't need to repeat what the bill is. I think it is quite clear and unambiguous in what it seeks to legislate for. I just have one or two small questions that I wish to raise. I just want to maybe acknowledge in the first instance the work of the Oireachtas Library and Research Service, and if I may also just to congratulate the parliamentary researcher Ms Reddy, who composed the bill digest in respect of this piece of legislation. She has in putting forward this bill digest thrown up some very interesting points, and I note that the United Kingdom is one of the signatories to this, and I just want to ask the Minister if in the context of Brexit negotiations there has been any discussion internally within the Department of Justice on how Brexit may, because it's a very theoretical question at this stage, may impact on the interpretation of this legislation vis-à-vis our relationship with the United Kingdom, for instance, given the close ties that exist between the two countries. It may be that it doesn't come under consideration at all. It may be that because of the fact that they are signatories and the convention has a certain date stamp on it, that Brexit will have no permutations for this convention whatsoever. But it would be very useful just to have a clarification or an understanding, if you will, on that, if necessary. I just also want to acknowledge the, I suppose, statement, if you will, of the National Office for the Prevention of Domestic Sexual and Gender-Based Violence, CUSC. They state that there was a government action plan to give voice to the Istanbul Convention, and that action plan is in place, and it relates to, for instance, issues such as educational and training modules for An Garda Síochána, for the HSE, for TUSLA, and for the courts service. And I just want to ask the Minister if he's satisfied that there is an adequate training and educational module in place and that is ongoing. I also want to ask the Minister if An Garda Síochána have implemented what CUSC describe as the risk assessment matrix. I don't fully understand what that is, but it would be useful just to have an articulation of what that is and whether it is ongoing. And do we have an integrated 24-hour national helpline to respond to the issues that are so pertinent to the legislation? And also, they've raised the issue of support for child witnesses of domestic violence and of sexual violence, and perhaps maybe it would be useful to hear from the Minister in respect of whether or not he is satisfied that there is a programmes or protocols or procedures in place in respect of those very issues. So we very much welcome the bill. I again refer to the bill's digest, which I have to say was very useful in terms of getting a better understanding of the dynamics of the legislation. And I just want to ask finally, in respect of the principle of extraterritorial jurisdiction, and I just want to quote from the report itself, where it says, however, there is a growing list of situations in which offences committed outside Irish territory are subject to the jurisdiction of an Irish court. This is largely due to the effects of globalisation and an acceptance by the international community, and I quote, that it has a common obligation to tackle certain forms of criminal enterprise that threaten fundamental interests transcending national boundaries. As Ireland assumes obligations under an increasing number of international agreements, the extent to which Irish citizens and those ordinarily resident in Ireland may be prosecuted for acts done outside the state has also increased. And then there is an example in relation to certain sections of other bills like the Domestic Violence Bill, the Criminal Justice Corruption Offences Act 2018 and Section 4 of the Criminal Justice Female Genital Mutilation Act 2012. The report then speaks to the issue of Irish registered ships or aircraft, and again I'm quoting directly from the Bill's Digest. The fact that a ship or aircraft is registered in Ireland does not automatically mean that it is Irish territory for the purpose of criminal jurisdiction once it leaves Irish territorial waters or aerospace. However, certain statutory provisions confer that jurisdiction on them where certain criminal offences are committed on board, irrespective of the nationality of the offender. So again, I just want to ask the Minister if there is a perspective from his department in respect of that very dynamic, and if this piece of legislation is pertinent to those types of scenarios that arise. Thank you. I just want to state then finally that we are absolutely supporting the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Sherlock.